Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this now. Hawks have raided the passenger rail agency of South Africa's offices in Johannesburg today. This is reported to be over claims of irregular tenders amounting to more than 18 billion rand. The raid comes over a month after the non-profit organization Open Secrets took the Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority to court for failing to hold what it says are Prasa looters to account. Let's speak now to Open Secrets lawyer Luthando Vilakazi, who talks to us from Cape Town tonight. Good evening to you, Luthando, and thank you very much for making time for us. You went to court in May to file an application to review the conduct of not just the Hawks, but the NPA, and you said at the time this is for the prolonged inaction in corruption investigations. So when you see today the raids being conducted, what do you make of it?
Thanks so much, Oli. Yeah, as you've said, we went to court essentially to ask the court to declare the failure to take a decision to prosecute around corruption at the passenger rail agency to be unlawful. Particularly because the delay has been almost a decade that the Hawks and NPA have been concluding or saying that they're going to conclude these investigations. So regarding the raids today, of course, we are very happy to see law enforcement performing its duties and fulfilling its obligations. What we don't want to see is continued corruption at our state agencies to go without any form of accountability or without any consequences for those who benefit from that corruption and from the misappropriation of public funds. But in being obviously happy that there is this positive action, we're also concerned that there are historical and pressing issues that have not yet been addressed, particularly the issues emanating out of the Zondo Commission.
I'm glad that you touch on why it is that this is happening now, or at least you express happiness that this is finally getting underway. There's a lot of action that has suddenly happened on the back of what the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, has done. But it's not just what he has said that appears to have prompted the action of the authorities. The president has now suspended Mr. Andrew Chauke, who is the prosecuting head, at least in the South Gauteng region. And many people saying that this is a figure that's been standing in the way of these prosecutions. Do you share in that sentiment, or is this unfair on Andrew Chauke?
So we have done a lot of work as Open Secrets around the role that lawyers and prosecutors play in enabling state capture and corruption when it comes to state issues. And one of my colleagues, in fact, I think has done a number of public engagements on this very issue. Where we see that particular people are preventing progress and preventing accountability, we absolutely encourage and support the removal of individuals who stand in the way of accountability. And as our reporting has showed, and it's not to say, I think, whether it's an opinion or not, you know, the evidence speaks for itself. That there has been inaction and that there has been a lack of political will to see prosecutions happen. And for that reason, the suspension we definitely welcome and we believe is part of the reason why we do the work that we do at Open Secrets.
Yeah, you spoke of historical issues. Let's focus the attention on Prasa because that is what you have been wanting to see for the longest time. What are some of these historical issues?
Well, ultimately, so, I mean, the story of what happened with the Siangena and Swifambo rail contracts, which resulted in the sort of the two toll trains issue, is one that many people will remember. We heard a lot of evidence around at the Zondo Commission from members within the rail agency itself, from whistleblowers, and from other investigators as well. In addition to that, and prior to the Zondo Commission, there were also various investigative reports that came out from the Auditor General's office, from then Public Protector Tuli Madonsela, and various other investigative organizations, including ourselves, as secrets. So when there is a mountain of evidence, it seems, that is available to the Hawks and to the NPA, one has to ask the question, how can it be that almost a decade later, it's still not possible for you to say that we have completed our investigations, at least sufficient enough to be able to take a decision on whether or not to prosecute? Because obviously, it's not for us to decide as NGOs and civil society who and how prosecutions take place. That is the competence of the NPA. Our issue here is you have not fulfilled that obligation and you have not provided a reason as to why.
And then perhaps the final question around this. So we've spoken about the NPA advocate Chauke being suspended pending an inquiry into his fitness to hold office. The Hawks, its former head, was on this channel just yesterday talking about how he could never stand in the way of people being arrested. And again, to refresh the viewers' minds, you in May opened secrets. You went to court to file an application to say, review the conduct of these two organizations, the Hawks and the NPA, for their failure to do their work. Raiding the offices is one thing, but actually arresting people is another. You've already alluded to the mountain of evidence. Do you think that is going to happen anytime soon? And what do you make of Godfrey Lebeya almost defending his tenure?
Sure. I mean, so as I think it's an important point also to highlight here. As Open Secrets, our primary focus is around corporations. It is around the ways in which private companies benefit from illegal and unlawful conduct, and not only benefit from it financially, but at the cost of, in the case of state capture, millions of South Africans who are no longer able to benefit from state services because of the corruption that's taken place and plundered those state agencies which provide those services. So ultimately, yes, individuals are the people who are undertaking this conduct when it comes to corruption. But ultimately, this is happening at a systemic level that benefits companies. And that also means that it benefits a larger and more sinister class of elite people at that level. So it's about being able to see, yes, individuals who are culpable and where there is evidence indicating that. But it's also about sending a message to companies who are ultimately the ones receiving contracts, right? These tenders are not happening with bidders being successful individuals. These are companies with R1 billion bottom lines who are benefiting here, and their shareholders as well. So it's very important that there is as strong a message around not being at all accepting corruption at that level from companies as well as individuals. And not just South African companies as well, because we always forget the fact that there are companies from Europe and from outside of South Africa who also benefited from state capture.
Absolutely. Luthando Vilakazi, thank you very much for your time.